One, hey, two, hey, one, hey, two, hey, three, hey, four, hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, ho. Everybody, hey.
Hi, I'm LaDios Muhammad.
I'm Rav'n Moon.
We're actors from the dark side. This is our special episode for entertainers, agitators, and the capitalization on the riots and who is with us. But before we dive in, we want to take a moment of silence. Thank you so much for being here. So, Rav'n, how you doing?
It's been a pretty tough week. Yeah. I'm happy that this country is finally coming to somewhat of a reckoning with its racial injustices and police brutality. I'm sad that it's taken so many lives and such aggressive and egregious action to make people pay attention. I know for me, I've been kind of in my own world. I've definitely shut off in terms of social media, regular media. Few people have checked on me, and I've seen some friends, but overall, yeah, it's definitely had an impact. So it's been a tough week. How about you?
Whew, I have been enraged, angry.
Yeah. Let's not forget the anger.
I've been very angry. I've even lashed out on a couple of colleagues who aren't people of color.
Yeah, I've lashed out on white people as well.
And I'm very saddened that it's gotten to this point, because my question is, what is so specific about it now that people want to jump on board and do something?
Sure, I've been struggling with that myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's been a plethora of things. We may not cover everything today, but we're going to cover some things.
Yeah.
And,
and we'll try to keep our focus on the entertainment industry and celebrity, so that we can at least kind of keep our range in, because this is one of those topics that you can go a lot of different places with, and it's a deep, highly charged issue.
Yes.
I spoke earlier about the fact that I've been kind of in a hole and shutting things out. Have you been able to take in any of the funeral proceedings or any of the other kind of media that's been going on around George Floyd's untimely death?
Yes, I watched some of the funeral last night. I didn't watch it live when it aired on Thursday. And again, I got upset all over again.
Really?
Yes. There's a couple of things that I seen. And when we're having this conversation and dialogue with you, this special episode is for all of the lives that have been lost.
Yes.
All of them.
They're countless.
Is so many
They're
to
countless.
name. And that's my frustration, is why now? And so I'm going to point out two things that happened in the because I don't want to belabor the point with the funeral, but there was quite a few people who showed up for that funeral. There was like Tiffany Haddish, Kevin Hart, Ludacris, Will Packer, Tyrese Gibson, T.I., Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Senator Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, Sheila Jackson Lee, Jacob Frey, Tim Waltz, Tina Smith, Joyce Beatty, and Martin Luther King III. Okay.
Now, tell me, what were some of the things that you disliked about the funeral?
Okay, so there's two things I'm going to mention. So they introduced the co-chancellor of Northern Central University. So the president of NCU came out. Okay. And this just blew my top. And you may or may not see it, but he comes on and says they're setting up a George Floyd Foundation Scholarship Fund. And I was disgusted because my whole thing is, now you want to set, and he employed and encouraged all universities to set up a fund, a scholarship fund. And I'm like, so you want, and he goes, because I want to support all black men and make sure all African black men get educated. And I might be paraphrasing on the quote exactly. And I'm thinking, okay, so someone who doesn't treat me right, you think you're going to teach me right? So you want me, you're going to give me money to go to your institution. So the money that you give me to go to your institution, I'm giving it right back to you. So you can educate me to be, brainwash me to be like you, to help navigate into your world that you're never going to accept us in, and you're starting to fund. If you wanted to raise funds, you should have been giving it to the family.
Well, that's the sad thing, though. I mean, I even remember this. This is just kind of dredging up some memories of like the United Negro College Fund. When I was a young kid, I couldn't walk by the TV without a commercial like that on television. And then from like the 90s up until just about last year, you didn't really hear about the organization. So there are these like 20 to 30 year periods where America just don't give a about black people. And then once everything builds up and the evidence is too great to ignore that there's a friggin' problem, that's when all of a sudden there's this outpouring of attention and outpouring of sympathy and all of that. I mean, one of the reasons why I've disengaged on social media is because I'm like, a lot of y'all are the same people that were like, all lives matter or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, no. I can't handle the hypocrisy. I can't handle the ability that it's on me to educate people, that, it's just the burden's too much in some respects at certain times for my mental health. There are people out there that take these things on and are much stronger in terms of being able to take on issues and not have them affect them. Me, I can put myself into tears and great depression over the things that I see and responses and the callousness of everyone, I mean, we're in a really uncaring world right now. Did you see on social media that teenagers are doing a George Floyd challenge?
What the hell is that?
Kneeling on other kids' necks and filming it?
I have not seen that.
Yeah, I mean, so just there's a lot of disgusting, ridiculous stuff going on. And yet there is this moment in time that's so pivotal where we can hopefully see real change, real policy change, and hopefully real systemic change. But unless we look at the system, like you were saying, unless we look at the system, all these efforts fail. As long as wars are more important than healthcare, as long as jail is more important than education, we aren't fixing any of this, know? So I know I just went off.
No, it's okay. This is a good platform to express yourself, because sometimes it just comes out. Yeah. He talked about he wanted to invest in the African American black man, and I was like, you're full of crap. That just took me from 0 to 100, because I'm like, you giving me money to be in debt to you, to teach me and brainwash me to get in your world is an investment. That is not investing. Why don't you invest in our communities? Why don't you give us loans so that we can open up our own business? Why don't you make sure we have fair and equitable housing? Why don't you have equitable why don't you give us where we have equitable income? Why don't you allow us? Matter of fact, we should be going to school for free. You know what I mean?
Well, that would be an equitable country.
Yeah,
and in an equitable country, you're right.
Yeah,
but yeah. This is a university that holds up the system.
Yeah,
and again, until you're willing to look at the system and the issues with the system, no real change comes about, because you can have all your degrees in the world. If that person still can't see past their, whatever implicit bias, they aren't going to hire me. And that's all that there is to it, So until we start addressing the fact that, this is kind of a white supremacist nation, and all people have pretty, prejudiced thoughts and things when it comes down to race, because we are born into a system that teaches us that. Yeah. From childhood, all of our earliest stories are under this lens of, we did right, they were wrong, and that's it, and so that's, and again, the re-education of America, that's a heavy, heavy fucking burden, because at the end of the day, it wasn't miseducation of the Negro that should have been written. It was miseducation of America to think, that somebody's inferior to you, to think all of these backward ass ideas that we uphold in this country for whatever goddamn reason, because it's been 400 years, so you'd think there would have been progress.
Yeah, and so Al Sharpton was there. Wow.
Wow. How do you feel about the brother Al?
So it's not even how I felt about him. What he was doing was giving shots out to the celebrities who were there. Okay. And then and during an interview, Tiffany Haddish was crying. She was like, "Why are you making this about celebrityism when this is about George Floyd?" Yeah. And so you got to understand who these people really are, which is when I mention agitators in our titles, these are there's a lot of things. I've been looking at a lot of different videos, and they're like hiring agents and agent provocateurs, which are agitators, to continue to do this disruptiveness of these riots that we're not actually doing now. So there was a protest last weekend where and there, there's people that I know that went. I don't protest, I don't march, I don't believe in it. I feel like all that continuous stuff, whether it's silent or violent, and I don't condone riots and destroying your country, but I understand because people are tired of not being heard. So my thing was, you gotta, so there's this perpetuating of civil unrest going on. And so these silent protesters, which were black people who went to, protest silently last week, they leave before they can even get out of there. They're already getting harassed by the police. Turn around, next day, white people are all over the place. Twice as many white people as there were as black people. Laying on the grounds, they're silent, they're peaceful, but they don't get any harassment whatsoever from the police. There's no dogs, there's no bats, there's no guns, there's no mace, there's nothing. And that's disturbing to me, because it still tells us that our lives, no matter how silent we are or how loud we are, you still don't see us as human beings,
That's right. And I mean, it goes back to where are the roots of the police force? Well, in the slave patrols. And it's like, I tell people sometimes, I was like, if a cop car said to serve and protect white people, would you look at them differently? Would you be so willing to call if that's what it said, pure as day? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that's what the subtext says, so I'm not quick to call the cops. I don't think that they're like going to be, hey, yes, I'm absolutely on her side. Even if I'm in the right, that's just the land that I've grown up in. Mm-hmm. Shoot, I've had friends that called the cops just because they were being stupid and had warrants for their arrest and went off to jail. So it's like, I've always felt like the cops aren't really there for anything but control, so, I've never been in that protective situation. I've never been in a fire. I've never been in that moment of peril where a police officer really helped save the day. Every time that I've interacted with police, it's always been, again, to control you from, whatever traffic infringement or kids being kids, that kind of stuff. So, but going back to the agitators, one of the things that I just don't think a lot of people realize is that if you go to like Yahoo News and it's a race-related article, you're going to get bombarded with all of these trolls, all these white supremacist trolls and all of that stuff, that these people are paid. They are paid to call radio stations. They are paid to protest, to post on news sites. They are paid to make it look like what it was in the 1920s and 30s, because people don't realize that, right now, the people that side with the white supremacists are around 27%, but back then, the amount of people that sided with white supremacists were around 72%. So that's why, you know, some of the footage that we see back in, like, you know, George Wallace and things like that, you know, these fields of white people with their signs and all of that, that was the sentiment of the country. And now we're trying to be duped into believing that's where the country is again. But it's BS, and that's why they pay these people to go and make us look like we can't handle ourselves at a protest, to make us look like we can't, you know, all of these things to make it look like the other side is right.
Yeah, the others. When you say the other side, what do you mean the other side is right?
To make it look like the right, the white supremacists, that they're right, that
we're not civil and we're savages.
Yes, exactly.
So that leads me to that's interesting because you're right, because I've been watching videos all week, but there was a video on YouTube where these young boys, they had to be young, like in their 20s and maybe teenagers, but there was a riot going on, and I don't know where the city was. They were videotaping it, and I'll put it in the comments below so you can see it. But they stopped three young white boys the same age, and they made them take off their masks. These white boys were going smashing in windows, and they stopped them. It was like, you guys are the ones smashing up our town.
Yep.
You guys are doing this.
Yep.
And you guys are making us look bad. And they said, you better take off your mask before I force you to take it off. But he was calm. He wasn't cussing him out. Nope. He was like, I'm not going to take it. He's like, you better take it off before I force you. And so the guy pulled it out, because there's like the equivalent, three or whatever. And then he said, now apologize for making black people look bad. Yeah. Apologize. Yeah. And he goes, I didn't make anybody. My friend died the same time that George Floyd died 5 years ago. He's like, apologize for making black people look bad. And he made every last, there was three of them, he made every last one of them apologize to us, because even in our anger, we still have mercy on people.
That's the great lie, right?
And we still have mercy. I'm sorry, I don't have mercy on you. I don't condone businesses being blown up, but I don't have mercy, because you are sitting here capitalizing this. I was looking at I went to go get some coffee from, not coffee, but a Frappuccino today from a black-owned coffee shop, Coffee on the Vine. And they had CNN playing. So I don't know what city they were in, because I haven't been watching CNN, but there was thousands of people marching. Thousands of people were marching and protesting about George Floyd. And they're holding up signs, and they have names of other people, Ahmaud, all them. One person had the audacity to have social justice for, what did it say, for transgender. And that's where the capitalization comes in, because I'm like, this isn't fucking about you. This is about black lives and black lives only. And these people are taking their time. They're taking this opportunity to capitalize on their needs and not dealing with the needs of black people. This is a black issue. It ain't all lives matter. It is black lives matter. It is not all lives, because until you deal with black lives, then you're still going to have a problem.
But at the end of the day, out of all the trans people, black trans people are dying way more than anybody else.
We're not talking about sexuality.
But I get it. But at the end of the day, that's where they're coming.
I'm not dealing with your sexuality. That has nothing to do with you killing a black man or a black woman every fucking day, every other month for the last 15,000 years. And Will Smith put it perfectly. He said, racism didn't get worse. He said, they just got video cameras. So now we see it. And you can't deny it. Bullshit. That has nothing to fucking do with black lives. So you need to take your shit, stand on the sidelines, and wait till our issues get completed and answered. You deal with our issues, because at the end of the day, this is a white person's issue. This ain't our issue. This is a white person. They're the ones that caused this. They need to correct it.
Well, I'm not going to really go there, but I will say that I took great offense this year that on Martin Luther King Day, that's when they had the Women's March. And I do hate that, things that can be specifically black can get kind of, so I understand your point. So going back to the funeral, what do you think some celebrities and politicians just showed up to be seen? I mean,
of course they did.
Huh.
Of course they capitalized. Again,
Okay.
They capitalize on this. They use this time to show, you got to think that the presidential election is coming. They're using everything they can to make themselves be seen. And again, it's going to, here's my thing. All these people are coming to these protests. All. I say all because white people are there.
Yeah.
It's probably more white people than black people because black people's like, you know what? I'm tired of fucking talking about it.
Yeah.
There's no more conversations for me.
Right.
So it's probably more white people, which fine if that's what you want to do, but still, are you an accomplice or an alliance? Are you an accomplice or an alliance? Because an alliance is the one that go to the protesters and the marches and the riots, but an accomplice is the one who's actually in the struggle. So what you gonna do 3 months from now when this settles down again? You're gonna go back to your suburban neighborhood, go back to your job and your family, and it's gonna be swept up under the rug. What are you gonna do?
Well, hopefully this moment has longer impact, right? I mean, one of the positive things that I did see this week was all of the actors that had played cops in the past made sizable contributions to, different, like Act Blue or, different kind of social movement, Black Lives Matter, that kind of thing. They said we need to put our money where our mouths are. And
what does that mean?
Benefiting from our depiction of being a cop. And you have to admit that the glorified depiction of police officers in our entertainment field is one of the things that leads to this over-policing and this, this issue that we have with the police is part of the fact that we hold them immune. We don't want to put any laws on them. They're the protected class of everybody because they're supposed to be our supposed saviors. And again, so much of that is because of these NCSIs and all of these shows where cops are shown to be the absolute saviors, your 911s and all of that stuff. So, in some regard, I think the actors that do get a paycheck for playing those roles should put their money where their mouth is and support organizations that are kind of trying to bring some social justice to the actual truth of and reality of what policing is, right? So that was one of the positive things that I saw, and that was actors of all races and all of that, and I was like, well, that's a positive thing. And I do hope, like I said, I've been very much head in the sand because I can't handle it. But, I really hope that this is a lasting moment. I am one to very much compare times in history. And this time in history has very much reminded me of maybe the Great Depression and those kind of things. But seeing all this activism, seeing all these people moving now, seeing people take to the streets, that reminds me of the 1960s. And it's like, well, maybe we're able to make these huge jumps and leaps in progress and thinking, I hope. I'm a cynic, so
and thanks for finding the humor in that. I would like to. I think it's going to be a lasting situation because we'll always be black. I think again,
like
3 months from now,
ever see us as human?
It doesn't matter what they see. As far as I'm concerned, I'm black. I'm powerful. I'm a woman. I have melanated. I'm a melanated woman. And that alone in and of itself is just like a god. So I can give a crap what you think. I'm not trying to be on an equal playing field.
I'm talking about the law.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about the law.
But the law is a part of the systematic discrimination,
Absolutely.
which is the powers that be above the law. Absolutely. The law doesn't run anything. The people above the law run anything. Sure. There was another video I came across. I didn't get too much into it. But I watched like the first 30 seconds and I was like, I can't do it anymore. But there was a panel of black and brown cops. They were former cops who they said that at the police station, they hired them to arrest and harass black and brown people, men, people. They hired them to do that. They hired them. So
to serve and protect white people.
And they said that they would get, and they said it was very difficult because they had to get so many arrests a month. So they said sometimes they end up just getting like a bum on the street just to make the quota of the arrest. They would put charges on these people. And so my thing again is, what is it about this particular murder that makes people want to have this holy uprising now? That white people want to join on board. And listen, there's other entertainers, and I'm going to mention some along the way. There's other entertainers that have been a part of this holy uprising.
Well,
there's others, but what about this? Because there's I mean, you talking about 5-6 years? Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland.
Well, don't you think that's part of it? Is this was the straw that broke the camel's back? That's what this was. It's like we've been seeing it. Daily in some cases. You know, when I mean. Gosh, Philando Castile, and like there were times when this shit was daily, and you could not turn on the news without seeing another case. So I think this and the brazenness, right? The fact that he sat there for 8 fucking minutes. You could not deny it. You just couldn't fucking deny it. So that's where I think this moment is special. And I don't know if it's so much like you had 2 cases that were just egregious, right? Ahmaud Arbery, where he was completely just hunted down. And now you had this, where a cop just acted completely out of his jurisdiction to murder somebody. So I think those 2 combined, are going to give some power to the people, power to the movement. Thank God. It's a long time flipping coming. I know that it's almost time for us to... We're
gonna come back and continue this. It'll probably be another 15-20 minutes, but we're gonna come back. So we'll be right back. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're back. And you were talking about...
no, I just finished the thought, actually.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah. So, the things, as you said, it was a long time coming. This is why it happened. There's another thing that I found interesting, and Mr. King had brought this up. And the thing is, nowadays, yes, we have these video cameras, but now in the sidelines, people just hold up their video cameras. Where was the help? Why weren't they helping him?
We're so controlled as a society. Nobody's going to bum rush the cops.
Why weren't they helping them? And then the cops, them and of themselves, did not stop the act in and of itself. So here's the thing is, the cops have black people, specifically black people, so scared that they didn't even help. They just videotaped it.
That's all of society, girl.
And then, no, that's not normal. Because my whole thing is, would you have helped?
Against a police officer?
Would you have, just the bottom
Probably
line?
Probably not, because I'm that controlled. Like, I know that's going to be my ass dead next.
Okay.
That's what we know.
But I'm just saying, like...
We have military enforced police officers. They can go after your ass with the drone. You don't even have to be around them, right?
So
we've blown people up.
So if it was one cop, because it was like a few cops...
It was 3.
No, I said, no, yeah, I got that. So there was 3, but what I was told is why they didn't help is because there was other cops that you didn't see in the video camera saying that they would be pepper sprayed if they tried to help.
Okay,
which is why they were videotaping.
Yeah.
But if it was one cop, if it was
you saw
hold on, if it was one cop and there's all this community, this whole block, would they have helped? That's my question is, would you have helped?
So are you suggesting that civilians attack police?
I'm not suggesting anything. What I'm saying is people want to do this holy uprising, and then you're protesting, you're destroying neighborhoods. How is that going to help when you don't unify? Okay? My thing is wrong and right is right. Same thing is these cops knew the guy was wrong. Why didn't they
do anything? And that should be the question. Not so much why aren't civilians jumping the cops, but why are cops acting wrong? No. Why are cops letting another cop kill someone?
That is both things.
The fact that he tapped him on the shoulder and he said, no, leave him alone. Because one of the cops said, should we lay him on his side? He said, no, just leave him alone. Yeah. That was bullshit. The other cop should have said, that's enough. Get off of him. We're doing too much here. fire, but none of them did that. If anything, they sat there and tried to block his actions. If anything, because what we
understand the cops, they have this.
Our police force is like a fucking fraternity,
exactly.
and they have each other's backs.
Yeah.
And until there's oversight, and we get rid of this quote unquote immunity that cops can do anything.
Do you think that's moving along?
I hope we have. It's been a week.
That's about
I hope.
I mean, they said they arrested him, but
yes,
here's the thing: he should have been arrested that day. No, he was arrested.
No, I'm saying this is the first time that we've had such swift action.
Yeah.
This is the first time that the day it happened, they were fired. So that took away a bunch of their protections from the friggin' unions and all of that shit. And that's how they were able to charge him and all of that other stuff. But why has it been 6 years? Why wasn't the cop that killed Tamir Rice fired? Why was it the cop? I mean, there are countless
So my
officers.
thing is, why did, I mean, they had video footage of a lot of stuff. What is so
I mean, to
important?
your point.
Let me get my question out.
Okay.
What is so important, or what is so effective about this particular death? Because this is not the first time that's been on video. And this is the umpteenth time. And I'm like, why?
And do you know who Dion Mitchell is?
I do not.
Okay, Dion Mitchell is the black man that died the exact same day of George Floyd, was killed by an Arizona state trooper, and Arizona refuses to release that state trooper's name. So while we're up in an uproar around George Floyd, there was another unjust killing, another officer that's getting away with it, and yet no one's talking about it. So is it the person? Is it again, you have a great point. What is it about this death that is so pivotal? To me, I think it was the brazenness of the officer and it being caught on tape. But again, if it were caught on tape, if it wouldn't have been caught on tape, who would have believed it? And if it wouldn't have been caught on tape, who would have believed it? That's my question. Because if it wouldn't have been caught on tape, no one would have believed it.
I think the names, like you just mentioned a name, the names are so enormous. It's starting to begin a blur. I can't even. And my heart goes out to mothers and families and fathers and brothers and sisters who have lost their loved ones due to police brutality. Because I cannot imagine, and I fear for my son, and I fear for my daughter, and I fear for my significant other. I fear because I don't even know if I fear for myself as much as I have to be completely honest, because there was one time I really honestly wanted to be a police officer. I also have never had but one experience, one bad experience with a police officer. It was a female, and the judge, when I went the next day, I got arrested and I went the next day to court, the judge was like, this is ridiculous. And he was a white judge. And I've never had a bad experience with a police officer outside of that. I've always had good, I could have been speeding, pulled over, and they were like, oh, you got a great smile, or oh, you're a nice person, oh, this is a warning. But I'm saying, I'm sorry, lost my thought. Go ahead.
Sorry. I also have never had a bad experience with cops. But I also treat cops with a lot of respect, and I almost always know what the hell I've done wrong. But my nightmare is I get sideswiped. And I'm unconscious or something like that, and they just decide not to give me medical care and I bleed out. Or, something happens where I'm in a confrontation with another person, a white person, and somehow that officer comes and it's just like, I mean, because at the end of the day, there's just been so many senseless deaths, and a lot of them toward women. And it's kind of shocking when you really go into it because, again, it's just, they're senseless. It makes no sense. So I fear for my life because it's just, that's the America that we live in. I fear for my life not only in terms of police, but I'll tell you what I know about white supremacists is that they decided to infiltrate not only police departments quite a few years ago, but also the medical industry. So you got white supremacist women acting as nurses. You got white supremacist men acting as police. So they got you on both ends. So, I won't even go to the damn hospital. I'm afraid to go to the hospital. Like, y'all gonna kill me because I'm black. And that's a horrible, that shouldn't be my existence, people. Like, once this started happening back in 2015, 2016, this city was mine. I loved it. I used to go out all the time by myself, wouldn't give a hoot. Not anymore. I don't know who's going to be a crazy Uber driver. I don't know who's going to be on the corner. I don't know, at the end of the day, I am part of an underserved, unprotected part of society. And you just have to go through this country. To be woke, right? To be conscious, to be semi-conscious. To be semi-conscious, I believe that James Baldwin said this, to be semi-conscious in America as a black person is to walk around in a state of constant rage. Because that's just how much you're hit with the injustices, the indignities, and just kind of the bullshit of being black in America. And really George Floyd's death, Ahmaud Arbery's death, being kind of paraded in front of us. It just drives to that point. So, yeah.
Well, I will say this. I'm not an activist. I'm an advocate for against social injustices. Yeah. I'm a very outspoken black woman, and I don't live in fear. I see this every day. I don't live in fear. I fear for my family, but I don't live in fear. Okay, at one point I am going to die. I don't want to die today, but I don't live in fear. Okay, that's something that's not going to happen. One of the things that I've noticed over the course, and up until this point, there was a lot of entertainers and celebrities who were already vocal and protesting against social injustice, especially black people. Of course, this started, way back when, but the first one that made headlines was, Colin Kaepernick. And then now Nick Cannon put out this amazing, and I'll put it in the comments, he put out this amazing poetry called I Can't Breathe. I encourage you guys to
Did he write it?
I would assume so. Nick Cannon is an incredible activist, and he's very conscious and stuff. But that was also one thing now, because when in the topics we were like, what next? So what next is because there's people that already had things that were going on. Gabrielle Union, of course, her lawsuit that she had against America's Got Talent.
Yes.
And she had it against NBC. Were you aware of that one?
I am.
NBC, the chairman. So now she has almost three pending. She has three pending lawsuits from what I got. One against NBC for the and then one against the chairman because they threatened her for speaking out about against the racism when she was on the set, and then one against Simon Cowell. So one of the things that Gabrielle Union, and I love her for this because this has been going on since last year. She's like, I want to pave the way for people who are coming after me, and I want to continue for the people who came before me.
Yeah.
So I'm an advocate. I'm not an activist. I'm not going to be out there rioting for what? See, there's ways to do things without having to be running your mouth. Okay, there's ways to get things done without having to be out there destroying property. And however you choose, there's no judgment from me. That's just not my way of doing things, because you can still be enraged and angry. Just make sure it's controlled, because once it's out of control and it consumes you, then you can't make rational judgment and decisions that are effective to make change.
And
hang on. I'm in the middle of the thought. I know.
Hang on. Keep going, girl. Keep going.
So these are the celebrities that I want to discuss, because these are celebrities who have over time been very active. Dave Chappelle, and I'm going to put all these links about these. Dave Chappelle had to deal with a heckler not too long ago, and a lady, it was a white girl. She said he was like, hey, what do you guys want me to talk about? She said, let's talk about police brutality. And then he started making jokes about police brutality or talking about things. And the girl says, life's hard, sorry about it. So instead of him getting mad, instead of him getting upset, instead of him getting angry and sad, he educated her. And he went back and he told her, and this was so interesting, but John Crawford III, who got killed in Walmart by that cop, a week or two before was the same cop that pulled over Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle says, I'm white on paper, but I'm black. I'm a black man in America. So when he got pulled over, he gives him his license plates and registration. And the cop says, I know who you are. You're Dave Chappelle. You don't need that. He said, I'll give you a warning. And Dave Chappelle says, why do I have to be Dave Chappelle to miss being dealing with police brutality? And I thought that was interesting. But he educates white people so that they can make a change. After that set, the woman came to him, apologized, and said, thank you. Then there's Ellen Pompeo, who's from Grey's Anatomy. She did a set with Emma Roberts, Gina Rodriguez, and Gabrielle Union. And she talked about the social inequalities of how women of color are getting way less than their counterparts of white women. These are things that I stand for. When I say I'm an actor with purpose, this is why I stand for it, because this is my purpose. Then there's Jamie Foxx, and he did and he speaks on the racism and how he said it was normal. It was normal. That was the mentality, because he's from the South. He said that was normal for me until he realized it became dangerous. And then the last one, Joaquin, did I say that? Joaquin Phoenix. He, before George Floyd, earlier this year when he won the Oscar, he calls out the systematic racisms at the Oscars 2020. 4 months prior to George Floyd. So there are entertainers who are actually in this, that I don't know if they're accomplices or alliances, but I know that they're starting to be cognizant of what's really going on. And my hat's off to all of you guys. Because it's important that, again, and he said it. He goes, it's our job as white people. We created this. We need to fix it. And I agree.
All right, great. Thank you. I can speak. Yeah. I think that's it. We could go on this topic for another like 5 or 6 hours, because racism is that big of a topic. I'm not going to add anything else to that list, but great work, and thank you to all of the people that are finally saying something about this issue.
Yes.
Please keep speaking about it, and to all of the policymakers and people that can make a change, please do something about this, because you can only do so much from the ground up. And to all of the people that are practicing their civil disobedience, I am with you, and please keep it up, because shut the shit down. Fuck them. That's the only way that they listen. So on that note, whatever you got, LaDios?
Yeah. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. This is a sensitive subject. As Rav'n said, we can go on and on for hours. We definitely want to incorporate this discussion as how this is affecting entertainers and celebrityisms, and also the provocateurs and the agents. And so I think we covered those. We can go on and on forever, but we did want to share our thoughts as actors in the entertainment business and what we do. I speak for myself, what I do for myself, for my people, for my community. And we hope that you can take something with this. It's a sensitive subject, but we thank you for chiming in. Do you have any closing remarks?
Hey, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, comment, and do all those things below. And I am Rav'n Moon, an actor with passion.
Yes, and just remember, you don't have to be asleep to dream, so get up, get out, and do something for yourself. I'm LaDios Muhammad, an actor with purpose, and we are actors
from the dark side.